Good day, good night, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are, fellow viewers. We are back with another installment of the CMTK podcast, where your favorite Turkey host, myself, CM Kosemen, and my good friend TK Sivgin, discuss everything and anything extraordinary with a particular leaning towards natural history and unexplained phenomena. And what do we have on our plate today, TK?
We are gonna review all of the alien species of the Star Wars sequel trilogy. No, I'm kidding.
Oh my God.
What are we gonna do, Memo? What is topic of today?
Well, this is something almost as cringe as the Star Wars prequels. So we will be actually doing a deep dive dissection of a certain paper which was published in earlier this year. That is to say, I think April 2024, and it's called the Cryptoterrestrial Hypothesis, a case for scientific openness to a concealed earthly explanation for unidentified anomalous phenomena. And this is just a fancy way of saying that they want to believe. And this is an interesting paper. They basically say, what if UFOs originate on Earth and then go on a really wild and, if I might add so, cringe and delusional spiral? And, you know, things like this are a dime a dozen. I mean, you see conspiracy stuff like this everywhere. But what makes this really extra special, and at least in my case really infuriating, is that this thing is partially underwritten by a certain human flourishing program at Harvard University. So they basically took Harvard University money to write something like well, you're just going to have to see it for yourselves. But what do you think about this, TK? How would you describe this pile of interesting stuff we have in our hands?
I don't know. While reading, like, the only thing that came to my mind described is it's like the Communist Manifesto, but for like every conspiracy theory.
Oh, I mean, it's almost as dense and impenetrable. And
yeah, but at least Marx was onto something, you know.
I mean, this is just like, okay, so here's my deal, okay, and I'll be happy to be corrected on this. And if you're listening, in the rare case you might even be one of the authors of this phenomenal corpolite. This is more about, like, this is like a textbook document. Like, if you want evidence, like hard evidence, showing how distance higher education is becoming from real life and how Byzantine and fraud-ridden it is becoming, you only need to look at this paper. Because as we're about to see, I actually went through this with colorful markers, you know, like a high school student. I had my orange marker for cringe content, and I had my yellow marker for interesting content, and there's orange all over the place. And how should we do this now? I could go point by point according to the things I highlighted, or you could give an introduction first and we could go ahead.
Yeah, we could first talk about like who the authors are. It's 3 authors, and maybe the journal in which they published this. The journal is named Philosophy and Cosmology, and I've not been able to find out much about this journal, if it's like an actual like a peer reviewing journal, or if this is like, you know, like one of those like predatory publishers,
or maybe it's a degree mill or academic credential mill.
Yeah, exactly. Or like there is this one very like deceptively named Journal of Cosmology, which is like full of fucking weirdos that say like there's mushrooms growing on Mars and you see it on the Mars rovers and stuff. And of course they gave themselves like a very serious sounding name just to people. And yeah, I wonder if this is something like that, or if this like, or if these authors just somehow managed to like pass their bullshit past the peer reviewers.
I mean, it could be anything, because, you know, recently, and we are recording in July 2024, and recently there was this scandal of, I think, a major biochemistry journal or something just publishing AI created art without review.
I've seen that with the illustrations even that are like obviously AI generated, with like a mouse that had like a 20-inch penis.
Yeah. I mean, it's one thing to have, like, you could discuss like AI generated art if it serves something, but literally in this journal the illustrations were like, as you said, a mouse with a giant penis, or something like a hamster with like 50 testicles or something, and then like even the text on the image was garbage, and they just published it. And it turns out a lot of journals, and dare I say maybe even a lot of prestigious journals with a high impact factor, Turns out a lot of these journals are publishing or letting also slide a lot of content that's just not replicable and just plain dishonest, and this is just a very sad state of affairs. It will only give ammunition to the anti-science crowd, and like with stuff like this happening, it will only be easier for something like creationism or QAnon or flat earth to take root again. But yeah, without getting distracted too much.
Okay, wait, I just found something interesting. I was looking at their website, and apparently 2 of the authors of this paper are also on the journal's editorial board.
What a coincidence.
Yeah. So like they probably didn't need to pass peer review.
Yeah, I mean they just put on a different hat and approved themselves. How convenient.
Yeah. So do we want to talk about the authors specifically? Like,
I mean, let's give an introduction on each, because I think you did more research on them.
Yeah, I think 2 are from Harvard University and the other one is from the University of Montana, and like one of them is Tim Lomas, who I think is a psychologist, which is already weird in this case. The other one, Michael Paul Mast, who is apparently a biological anthropologist, or he has like some degree in that area. And like if you go on Amazon, this guy like is obviously already like a UFO nut. He writes like a lot of books about the topic with like his, like I think most of the stuff we're about to read here are probably his thought. And then there is Brandon Case guy, which I've been unable to find out like what degree he actually has. But as we just said, he's on the editorial board of this journal.
It says he's an associate director for research, spending his time conducting very important research. I'm certain of it. Look, and this is Harvard University. I mean, I think like I was educated at an Ivy League school myself, but I went to the cool Ivy League school. I went to Cornell University. And even in my time, and I'm a bit ancient, but even in my time, there was this kind of like prejudice against Harvard people as being glib and kind of more full of shit than many others. And I think now we are seeing this come to a head. But anyways, I could dunk on Harvard people for an hour.
Isn't Harvard mostly like known for like their law department? Like,
yeah, I mean, it's supposedly like it had a generational image as like the best university in the world, you know, like, which is of course, as anybody would know, there are only 2 real universities in the world, Oxford and Cambridge. But
I'm of the opinion the last real university was burnt down by the Mongols.
Oh yeah, maybe, true. But the definition of a true university notwithstanding, you know, Harvard had this reputation. If someone's in Harvard, you know, they're like, oh my God, like they're the top of the pile, top of the heap and stuff like that. And I have met a number of people from Harvard University, and you would be surprised at how glib and shallow they are. I mean, there are far smarter people in community colleges or these so-called second-tier universities, or who even never attended college. And I think the casual links between tertiary education, going to college and like going to certain colleges, and your own integrity as a researcher or a person of interest or a scientist or whatever, you know, it's breaking down fast. But yeah, what can we say
on that? Like in German there is actually a word for that kind of person.
What is it?
Fachidiot.
Okay.
So like someone who is like good in like one very specific topic, but is like an idiot everywhere else.
Yeah. I think this is a major problem in the world itself. I mean, there's this extreme and fake compartmentalization of issues. And I mean, you have things like you go to a hospital and somebody who could take care of you doesn't take care of you because they know I'm not in that department. And that's like extreme. That's an extreme example. But yeah, it's like a safe zone for people to grow stupid. And anyways, I mean, look.
Yeah, it's like, okay, we can talk along about this, but you're right in that like there are no universal geniuses anymore. Like you used to have like in Victorian times where you could just be a naturalist and that you have actually had good knowledge in pretty much every field of science.
Yeah. And okay, I mean the fields of science are extremely deep and specialized today, but they are actively discouraging people from reaching out. And then what options exist for cross-departmental collaboration get usurped usurped by extraordinary gentlemen like these human flourishing program people over here. And yeah, that is that. And shall we dive into this paper now? I mean,
yes, like, do you want to give the broad outline? Like, what is their hypothesis?
okay, they basically, so they use a lot of very complicated word, and they have this like sort of very self-confident tone, and using it they say that, you know, people look at UFOs and they either think they come from a human-made technology or from alien. But like some sort of genius, they advance a third option here. They say, what if they are cryptoterrestrial? And this doesn't mean people who have been getting shafted with cryptocurrencies. It means crypto, meaning the Latin root for hidden. It means hidden terrestrial intelligences. That is to say, a non-human intelligence that is native to Earth. So it's an interesting notion, you know, like I would not dismiss this out of hand. And they say UAPs, which is their word for UFOs, may reflect activities of intelligent beings concealed in stealth here on Earth. I also have like big problems with these. Like maybe I'm like pedantic, but if somebody unironically says concealed in stealth, they're being OTOs. They're the same word, they have the same meaning, they use it over and over again. It's just bluster, fucking bluster. You just say intelligent beings hidden here on Earth. Just say hidden, concealed in stealth.
Yeah, it's a tautology.
Yeah. I mean, and the whole text is full of tautologies like this. Good thing I went over it with my markers, but yeah, they also say that there's also a distinct possibility that UFO occupants may be extraterrestrial. That is to say, they're from a different time, but from Earth itself. Okay, that's interesting. And then they just start on ranting, you know. I mean, I think, there's also like, they sound like the Philosophy 101 paper kind of thing. So it's like, therefore, we explore the cryptoterrestrial hypothesis over 5 sections, reflecting on, and this is like again, silly, pedantic mistake, but it just shows me they don't take their work seriously. In page 2, in the second big paragraph, they do this sort of Philosophy 101 student listing, okay? It could be explored in 5 sections, and it says A, limits to historic knowledge, and then they say 2, traces of lost civilization. So instead of A, B, C, or 1, 2, 3, they actually mix A with 2. And, you know, if you're a Harvard program academic, you know, you gotta be fucking able to, you know, dot your I's and cross your T's, and it's just sloppy. I mean, so they look at, basically, this is their complicated view of saying, they look at traditionals around magical entities and UFO activities underground, and then they basically imagine like somebody actually listened to these like cryptid iceberg or UFO iceberg videos for one day, and they list the most basic examples of anything you can think about, and they like kind of like shoddily sketch them together. And
yeah, it's sorry, go on.
They use this like really sloppy and dishonest language. I mean, they say many critics suspect that AARO, which is a official investigating board for UAPs, may be deliberately downplaying the topic. And so it's just saying it's a cover-up. But who are these many critics, you know? Who are suggesting? It's nobody. They're just agreeing, they're just arguing for their bias. But go ahead, man. I'm just so full of like Eminem level hatred for these guys.
The language paper is just weird. Like they basically they think they're talking scientifically, but they're absolutely not. You get what I mean?
Solidly agree. I think like anybody interested in academic research or even science writing itself can just look at this paper as a very good guide on how not to write. And so I'm just going to go on page by page and maybe relate to you the interesting stuff, and then you can chime off those if you want. So as a valid source, they first on page 3 say they go over the claims of this David Grush character, who gave a big statement to the Congress in 2023, and they just like put it out there as a sort of quote unquote evidence, like something weird is going on. But then they say at the time of writing, there's no way to know the validity of his claims, you know, might be true, might be false. We're just objective humans giving you the information. And then they go over a lot of like claims made by former military people or astronauts. They quote this one guy, Colonel Carl Nell, who says non-human intelligence exists and has been interacting with people. It's not new, and unelected people in the government are aware of that. This is just like the beat by beat X-Files conspiracy. And the sad thing is, individually, I am not 100% skeptical at any of these claims. I mean, there's a non-zero chance that, yeah, maybe there is something weird going on. I mean, the point they make about unelected people in the government, it's a big point of contention because a lot of these military and research programs and budget, they have also political connotations and they're really unaccountable. I mean, there's this great outgrowth of unaccountable military scientific programs in the United States. But yeah, they just make those points, but they just use it as a kind of sauce dressing, go on with their other things, such as they say, oh, this is wonderful. In page 4, they cite Neil deGrasse Tyson 2023 as a credible source, and they say that scientists may struggle to seriously consider this issue. And then they give a soundbite from Neil deGrasse Tyson and they push it off as an official citation. There's actually a ridiculous incident on page 9 where they say they cite Joe Rogan 2024.
Oh yeah, I couldn't believe it when I saw that. Citing Joe Rogan, like not just in a scientific paper, in anything should probably disqualify you.
Yeah, and to make things weirder, this citation doesn't appear in their list of sources, or at least I couldn't see it. But if you look under R, Rogan, Joe, the Joe Rogan podcast, it's not there. So, and man, like the sources are weird too. I mean, Eric von Daniken is presented as a credible source. The 1931 book Lemuria, the Lost Continent of the Pacific, is listed as a source.
Yeah, or they just cite unsubstantiated eyewitness UFO reports from somewhere in bumfuck Brazil.
Yeah, true. But look, they're also dishonest. I mean, you look at the sources. I'm going over to the references list, okay? References. And there's like a crap ton of stuff from news sources, basically, and also Twitter, and also sloppy academic writing. Sometimes it's cited as Twitter, sometimes it's cited as X. Then there are books from like there's this kind of Brotherhood of White Temple Publishing Incorporated, and the reputable source is Mysteries of Mount Shasta. Another similar volume is called Secret Machines with a K, S-E-K-R-E-T Machines, God, Volume 1 of Gods, Man and War, To the Stars Publishing. So you got like a source, Subterranean Space Using Cappadocia, the Uchisar example.
Oh my God, I just saw they cited the Daily Mail one.
Yeah, there are Daily Mail.
Like a Daily Mail article.
Creation.com is also cited as a source.
Holy
you can
shit.
believe it. It gets weirder. Like there's a book, like there's a 1980s New Age book. It's called The Girl from the Lemurian Colony Beneath Mount Shasta. And isn't
that like a H.P. Lovecraft story?
That's the mound. It's set in the Midwest. Mount Shasta is actually on the Pacific seaboard. So it's this weird volcano near Oregon, like in Oregon State, and it's a flocking ground for paranormal Americans. Like all sorts of meditation people. It's a bit like Turkey's Göbekli Tepe attracting all the paranormal Turks and the meditation cat ladies and stuff. As a side note, by the way, do you know the band Pixies?
No.
So it's a kind of like mid-tier famous indie band, and so there's one song that they made that is about Mount Shasta and Lemuria, and it's basically like, this is like a very tangent note, but if you're listening and if you know this song, it's one of my favorite songs. It's called Veloria, and it's got lines like, how could lemur's skin reflect the sea? And they interviewed the lead singer of the Pixies about this song, and he unironically says like, oh, I had a drug trip near Mount Shasta, and I met a very weird girl who had relatives from Lemuria, and she taught me all about the Rosicrucian cross. Like, this is like unironically the lead singer's ramblings. Now, I'm not critiquing that because it's some sort of like musical genius. Song is really
I
catchy.
mean, it is honest.
Yeah. But yeah, the authors miss citing Pixies, Lemuria as a credible source.
Yeah. that anecdote reminds. Do you know the band America?
No, that's something I
They have
know.
this like one. They have many famous songs, but like one of them is a horse with no name.
Oh, okay.
And in like it sounds really good, but it has like lyrics like the heat was hot. Da, 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 da.
Oh, in the
And it-
desert. You
yeah,
can't
exactly, that
remember
one.
no name. Okay,
And
that's
when
lovely.
they asked them about like why these lyrics make no sense, they just answered, "Oh, we were high when we were writing that."
Yeah. So, yeah, it's like that sort of mentality, but only taking itself too seriously. I mean, going over the sources on page 20, towards the bottom, there's this like, I mean, very solid reference. It's from a book called Alien World Order, Reptilian Plan to Divide and Conquer the Human Race by Kasten K 2017. And by the way, when you read the paper, none of these are cited critically. I mean, they just make this claim and they say like certain researchers have suggested the possibility of a reptilian intelligence evolving, and they cite this bullshit racist book as a source.
Yeah. Also, they at one point cite. Wait, I had his book right here. They cite Richard E. Hoagland, who is like I basically call him the like face on Mars guy. Wait, I'll get.
Oh, the Monuments of Mars, a city on the edge of forever. I'm reading it right now.
Okay, I found it. I have it here.
Mhm.
Yeah, like it's a really interesting book, but it is just this guy is crazy.
I love books like this. I really love books like this. Fortiana, they call them. I mean, and they're really fun to read if you're reading them critically. Like when you make connections between the weird writings and the author's life stories, actually they make a lot of sense. But yeah, there's none of that critical approach in this paper.
Yeah, but I have to be honest. Like even Hoagland kind of writes better than his author.
Of course, I
Because
mean,
like at some like Hoagland can make sense in some pages. Sometimes he just becomes like militant about his belief.
They also go and cite, this is a great book by the way, The Secret Commonwealth of Elves, Fauns and Fairies by Kirk, and it's a very old folklore book about Highland folklore in the British Isles, and it was written by this one religious minister who wanted to catalog all the weird traditions of the Highlands, and they cite it as like a legitimate fact here, but in fact it's a folkloric study. And yeah, I mean, there's that.
Oh my god, I just see under the Kirk citation they cite this documentary Aliens on the Moon. I actually watched that one when it was on Netflix. I remember that one.
Yeah. I mean,
was-
so
they actually
absolute
managed to get-
documentaries.
Yeah, they actually managed to get Buzz Aldrin in that document somehow, but when you watch it, you really notice that they like deceptively edited his interview.
Yeah.
But it looked like he was saying something like, I don't know, have you watched The Simpsons?
Yeah. I
That
know
one
what
episode,
you mean.
like I just wanted to touch her can, and then you see like the clock behind him change numbers, and
Yeah.
like, it
And
was a
then-
bit like that. Like I feel bad for Buzz Aldrin.
Oh
for
no,
making
yeah.
that documentary.
I mean, look, this must be like, if anybody is making these decisions in Harvard, like the money given to these guys must be like cut off like tomorrow, slam, because it's like they sat around for a year writing a blog post and like,
Wait a minute. On the first page, it
Uh-huh.
says like these people, like this paper itself, not associated with the Human Flourishing Program at Harvard.
oh, we just happen to work there though.
Yeah. But two of them come from Harvard, but like this publication itself is not connected to Harvard.
I mean, let's not
gotta be
connect the
fair.
dots here, let's not put two and two together here. Maybe actually the Human Flourishing Program is a flourishing program. And actually, I'm just going to look at their research now. So it says, our research, promotion of flourishing, religious communities, work and well-being, family and friendship, meaning and purpose, character and formation. I mean, look, maybe the Human Flourishing Program, independently of this UFO crap, actually publishes some legitimate research, but like they got this section promoting religion and spirituality as a positive impact on health. Okay, promotion of flourishing, let's look at that. By the way, the website is called fhfh.fas.harvard.edu, and you can all check it out. The writing is the same. The promotion of flourishing project seeks to 1. Develop and evaluate the properties of a new measure of human flourishing. And 2. Evaluate major determinants of flourishing. Conceive your mother, you. Number 3. Promote policy and research aimed at the promotion of human flourishing. Information conveyed 0. Very circular writing. But what are their publications? Activities for flourishing. Do you think this is like a secret code word for, yeah, we're gonna have a flourishing event and it's like a ketamine orgy or something? I don't know. But look, I'm happy to be proven wrong. They're hosting an event called the 2024 World Congress on Moral Injury, Spirituality, and Healing. And they got all these stock images where like a guy holding his forehead looking back bad, and in the background there's like a 50% opacity photoshopped image of a hand reaching through the sun and something. I don't know. This is maybe this is where they dump all the new age religious nut. I don't know.
Yeah, could be. But at least like the authors are self-aware enough that they try to distance their work from that program to not to not make that look bad, I guess.
I don't know. I mean, look, nothing needs too much effort to look bad over here. But let's go back to this program. Let's go back to this paper and its main point. Okay.
So we were at like them citing like Neil deGrasse Tyson and Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
At one point they also mention Avi Loeb, who he is a legit astronomer, I think. But he has like very like out there ideas like that this interstellar object that flew through our solar system a few years ago.
Yeah.
Like he hypothesized that it was like an alien spacecraft, and apparently I didn't know this, but I only learned it thanks to this paper that he also believes like the moon is partially artificial.
Okay.
I don't know. Reading that, before that I had like more of a neutral opinion of him. Like I just thought he was like some astronomer with like who's like asking, yeah, what if? But okay, apparently he's also into that kind of shit.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'll just make a point here, and it connects to something we said earlier about hyper-compartmentalization in government and the sciences. And time and again, you can hear people from quote-unquote respectable careers, military, space, aerospace, science, making these outlandish claims. It doesn't mean that something is out there. It just means that crazy people can find work as airspace engineers or in the military industrial bureaucracy as well. There's, of course, always a chance. Look, I will never dismiss this. There's always a chance that maybe these people, like the US military or something, they do know some weird things that we can't explain, maybe. But always, extraordinary claims need extraordinary evidence. And it doesn't matter if because there's I won't deny it. There's like a really attractive, weird sense when like some military official or Air Force official says they are here and we know it. And I think it is cited somewhere here. Like they got lots of interesting, juicy tidbits. For example, they quote Ron James, the director for the UFO research group MUFON, and he says that the Pentagon was researching UFOs, but in the 1980s or 90s, the biblically minded generals in the Pentagon wanted to shut these investigations down because they were convinced that the aliens were demons, and further investigation could open up a portal to hell, which is very, very...
That's just the plot of Doom.
Or Warhammer, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
They also cite another researcher saying that they encountered in New Zealand, they encountered a 150 feet wide object that could fly at 20 kilometers in 30 seconds. Interesting. So there's lots of interesting, weird incidents that get referenced here. There's the UAP that looks like an airborne jellyfish in 2024. They mentioned this weird Italian connection. They just briefly mentioned that, oh yeah, the Italian government was in contact with strange beings from the Adriatic Sea in the 1930s.
Yeah, those were actually Albanian.
Okay. And I don't know, like they also quote somebody else saying not only are there aliens, but there are also 57 species of aliens.
Yeah, or also that there's like evidence of giants and...
Yeah, they quote this other guy who says, oh yeah, I was working. So they make this whole argument saying that they put out these like archaeological evidence about the underground cities in Turkey's Cappadocia region and stuff. And then they use this as a springboard to launch into bullshit bullshit, which is saying, so these underground cities suggest that maybe something secret could be living underground. And then from there on, they move to this like schizophrenic man saying that he was actually involved with the excavation of a military base in Nevada. And it turns out that in this area, the aliens live underground. So they were digging the place and they kept running into gray alien type beings, and he said he had to shoot one of them, and the whole place had security guards whose only job was to like shoot the aliens they uncovered while digging the place. Of course,
you know what I just like realized, how you can like summarize writing style.
Yes.
Then like they are given an inch and they take a mile.
Of course, very well said. Look, very well said. And I mean, also the arguments are like Fate magazine, or like, for example, there's a magazine called 14 Times in the UK, which writes about mysterious stuff and like unknown phenomena, but they have a more based and, dare I say, skeptical approach to it. But these guys are just dishonestly jumbling together all sorts of facts and trying to push other.
I think we need to bring some structure into this, because we've basically been rambling about all of this for half an hour. But
well, I think
let's just summarize. Like basically, they are saying, like they are hypothesizing that UFOs are actually created or flown by organisms that evolved on Earth, and as possible that they consider and as possible occupants, they put forward either that it is like some like human subspecies, some type of unknown hominid, or I mean that's the point why I even like why I discovered this and why I even wanted to show you. At one point they also suggest, like they bring up again Dale Russell's Dinosauroid hypothesis.
Oh yes,
like about the intelligent troodons.
Let me read that part to you, because I have it.
Oh yeah,
I have it highlighted.
Yeah.
It says Dave Russell and Sivgin analyzed the morphological trends among dinosaurs towards larger brains and upright posture in a species called Etroodon. Also, look, another mark of like shitty academic writing. You know, every scientific name you italicize in a scientific publication, but a species called Etroodon, the genus name isn't italicized. So it's just, I mean, these people don't know shit from Shinola. And okay, they arrived at an upright reptilian-like feature they dubbed the Dinosauroid. Crucially, some people, again, once again, these unknown some people run to the rescue, argue it could have survived the extinction and continued to develop by retreating below ground. It is intriguing how many reptilians have long been associated with the UFO topic. And then it goes on to all these like bullshit reptilians among us stuff. And then they even go, they even go like, clearly there's a connection between the underworld and reptilian creatures. And they say the underworld of Sheol in Judaism, or Shambhala in Tibetan Buddhism. And these are all listed one after the other. So these guys find one scientific fact that sounds a bit like their stupid point that they want to make. And then, as you said, they get an inch, they claim a mile, they follow that up with like an entire truckload of them.
Yeah, but the thing that I found the most funny is that they connect this Dinosauroid hypothesis with like these obviously fake looking mummies that they presented in like the Mexican Congress. Remember that?
The Mexican mummies.
Yeah, the little LMAOs from, I think they were actually found in Peru, but for some reason they were presented in Mexico. And it's like been very clear that these things are like made up of the bones of multiple animals.
Yeah, they discuss them actually. They say, and they do their dishonest best to make them sound believable. I'm just gonna look for it. Just a second. Sorry. Yeah, two figurines. This is on page 36, and they first give a skeptical point, saying like they're not aliens, they're dolls made from animal bones on this planet with synthetic glue. It's a totally made up story. And then they have this quote. They say, this remains the consensus among scientists. And then they say, this being said, we ought to acknowledge that numerous other similar specimens have allegedly been discovered. As discussed on a recent episode of That UFO Podcast 2024. Extending the spirit of openness that we have sought to bring into this paper more generally, we cannot necessarily assume that the skepticism associated with the Mexico mummies would necessarily apply to every case. So they're just like doing tossing a word salad, even when they're clearly confronted with a fake. They're tossing a word salad to make it sound like slightly believable, but it's such bad writing. It's like those, I mean, even X-Files has better writing, you know. And I'll also show you one more example of this dishonest writing practice. So they say that according to the proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, it is estimated that roughly 20% of living mammal species remain undescribed. Now, to somebody like you and me, this would not be surprising because the bulk of hidden diversity is among rodents and bats, which are very small. But then they follow this up saying among the most notorious candidates for hidden mammalian diversity is the Sasquatch or the Bigfoot. And then they go off to all this sort of like bullshit Bigfoot evidence. So this is why I think these guys are not well-intending but bumbling, gullible people, but they're actively academically dishonest because they take, it's like saying, hundreds of new species are being discovered every year. Why should they not discover Sasquatches or reptilian people? But then of course you don't tell that all those hundreds of species are like, most of them are smaller than a person's hand. And this just keeps repeating over and over. The same story with archaeology, the same story with out of place artifacts, same story with they go into folklore and like do a half-ass collage of like all folk beliefs in fairies or little people, and without any critical insight they then follow that up with what if these are ultra-dimensional beings that are still native to Earth. And then they say, after all, I kid you not, this is on page 13, according to Arthur Clarke's third law, any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic.
I audibly groaned when I read that because like such a fucking cliche, you know.
Yeah. I mean, they cite that as like evidence, you know, like as if it's Newton's third law or something. Just so. And look, I'll tell you and our viewers something. Like when you're reading bullshit like this, always consider who does it appeal to. Like who do these people want to read their paper? It's certainly.
I can tell you that because that's how I found it. I was like scrolling through Reddit, which is already a questionable place.
Okay, yeah.
And there was a subreddit. I think it was r/alien. So like people that were already like knee deep in all of this conspiracy theory stuff, and this paper was like the most upvoted post that day, and it was amazing. Like I went into the comments, it was amazing how many people just vibed with this, and that's how you realize who this, or that these are people who already treat most of this like pseudo stuff as fact, and so that it doesn't even ring an alarm bell,
and it hits all their beats, right? Mount Shasta, underground bases, aliens on the moon.
It's all stuff they already heard before, and because of that familiarity, it sounds more plausible.
Yeah, it's like almost like dog whistling, almost, because they really present like I would have been more respectful if they have at least like focused on really obscure, strange cases. But no, it's actually the most basic, and in cases sometimes. Really, it's things that have been disproved ages ago. I mean, they treat the faces on Mars as fact. Do you want to maybe elaborate on that a bit?
Yeah, wait, let me find the page again.
32 bottom paragraph.
Yeah, page 32. Okay, the footnote. I haven't read that one. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, on the main body, it's also
there are essentially two competing hypotheses regarding the Cydonia face. Either it is A, a naturally occurring feature of the geography that just happens to resemble a face, or B, an artificial construction designed by an NHI to look like a face. And first up, like these two hypotheses are not competing because A is supported by scientists and B is supported by not scientists. If these actually were competing hypotheses, scientists would be discussing both.
Oh yeah, but you know that never. By the way, I'm so using this as an excuse now. Like when I want to do something outrageous, but there are two competing hypotheses here. You know, one, yes, I was really robbing that bank, or B, another experience took place. Although A has tended to be the prevailing explanation, some have pointed out to more probability towards B. I mean, like, you could use
It's like saying everything has only a 50% probability because it either happens or it doesn't.
Oh yeah, I mean, and also this face on Mars is such a dead horse. Just as a summary, there's this pile of rocks on Mars, which kind of looked like a face and was a big thing for popular culture, paranormal people.
Because it was photographed with satellite cameras in 1976. That shit had less resolution than, I don't know, today's YouTube videos at 360p.
Yeah. I mean, and then of course I think they did another photograph in the 1990s and it was just completely demolished. But
wait, I have it here. Look, this is what it looks like today. It still kind of looks weird, but you can't see really the face anymore.
Yeah, maybe we'll make this we'll put this in our video opening image. But yeah, I mean, look, fate is hard to kill, and this thing was disproven like conclusively years ago, but here they are still playing word games, and they're like, I mean, this level of academic dishonesty, like listing everything in A. Yes, maybe I was having sex with a dead dog in the forest, or B, you just saw swamp gas. I mean, it's just and yeah, and it's really sad. I ain't mad, I'm just sad. I mean, you expect maybe, okay, something interesting is hidden in there, but there's nothing interesting. It's like the most base form of forgery you can imaginable.
Absolutely. So yeah, they talk about like that. That's the thing. Like they talk about like everything in the conspiracy scene except for like anti-Semitism.
Oh yeah, but they almost go there because
of the lizard people, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think maybe next. Who knows? I mean, these trends have a way of changing fact. I mean, you could definitely say it could be that the economic collapse of the Weimar Republic was due to unforeseen factors, or B, Jews were doing. I mean, like, you could definitely use this dishonest argument tactics to advance any form of like vile political idea possible.
Yeah, but like I said, they touch on pretty much everything that like the conspiracy theorist heart yearns for. Like, talk about Atlantis, they talk about Bigfoot, they talk about artifacts on the moon, they talk about, what else do they talk about? Anyway, and they all just try to string this together into their base hypothesis that there could have been a civilization on Earth before humanity, and those creatures have been going underground, and since then they have been building UFOs.
Yeah, which is another pity, because something like that is not entirely implausible. I mean, there could have been artifact building intelligent species in the past. In fact, we made ourselves a plan to talk about this in our next episode, because in this episode we're just spending too much time being angry at these losers.
What this hypothesis is actually called, not the cryptoterrestrial hypothesis, but it's called the Silurian hypothesis, which was named in a paper that was like actually serious and made by serious people, but it wasn't trying to claim anything. It was simply pointing out the possibility.
Yeah, and it's called the Silurian hypothesis because I think they said if there was a big civilization in the Silurian period, would anything remain?
No. They called it Silurian hypothesis because of the aliens from Doctor Who.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, not aliens, but like for those people who don't watch Doctor Who,
the cryptoterrestrials in Doctor Who.
In Doctor Who there is this race of reptile-like creatures they call Silurians, which doesn't make sense because there were no reptiles Silurian. But anyway, that existed before humanity, and like they are like reoccurring villains and sometimes friends in the show's universe. And I guess the authors of that original paper, I don't know their names anymore. They just try to be cheeky by naming it after that.
Yeah.
That paper was pretty alright. They just talked about like the possibility, and they looked through some of the time, like through some anomalies in the geological record, like that Paleocene thermal maximum, where they said, okay, this is kind of similar to what is happening today, thanks civilization, but it would need more investigation. Like, they were very cautious in that paper, like they should have been. And again, the authors of this paper here, the cryptoterrestrial paper, they take an inch and make a mile out of it.
Yeah. And I mean, just just part of the closing note for me. They also take away something really interesting from another paper. It's by Carl Nell, and let me just mention the name of that paper because it is actually interesting. So a researcher called Carl Nell basically outlined a big list of probabilities, and he just gave an outline of many probabilities that could be the origin of the UFO phenomenon. And it starts with the natural and mundane explanation, and it goes towards the weird ones. So like perhaps the only good thing in this paper is a listing of those categories on page 29, and it starts with like prosaic explanations, natural explanations, optical artifacts, meteorological, geophysical phenomena. Then they say they consider human explanations for UFOs, government, extra governments, intergovernmental, or even private and commercial tests of aircraft. Then they go look at cryptoterrestrial hypotheses, which are ancient humans, breakaway civilizations, cryptid humanoids. So even the meat of the main thrust of their argument is stolen from this thing. Then they look at extraterrestrial possibilities. What if they're aliens from the solar system? What if they're aliens from another star, aliens from another galaxy? Then it goes all the way to like 3D universal holograms, interdimensional beings, multiverse beings, mass hypnosis, false beliefs, psychedelic, metaphysical. So it gives you a spectrum of everything that could be responsible for something like the UFO phenomenon, and that bit is, I think, really enlightening. And then it just, I mean,
interesting. Then it goes into like psychosocial explanations, like
yeah,
hysteria, mimetic virus, or hope. I think.
Yeah. So I think that's like that's a thorough epistemological survey of like all the probabilities, no matter how small, that could be involved with something like this. And that's, I think, like proper and interesting and thought-provoking science writing. So they just sniped a little bit from that with the cryptoterrestrials, peppered it with a bunch of overdue kind of like rotten, very basic 14 pop theories. And then they used real science anecdotes as dishonest bridges to link them to their baseless argument. And then they conclude with this: what if there's something else entirely? In that respect, as this paper has hopefully demonstrated, we ought to include openness to a cryptoterrestrial hypothesis in a spirit of curious and genuine inquiry. How about you demonstrate an openness of your asshole to my dick? I mean, goddamn.
Okay, that came out of left field.
Yeah, I mean, it was building for a while. I mean, goddamn. Just demonstrate.
You were etching yourself for that.
Just demonstrate an openness. Yeah. Just think about it, and it's just.
Yeah.
Anyways, look, if I talk any more about this thing, I'll get really censorious, and we'll get our channels.
They left their head so open their brain fell out.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like a class saying.
Exactly. And look, mind you, I am the furthest you can get from like an IFL science. Science is the only way to know you all, skeptic, like Lisa Simpson type skeptic. But this thing is not the way to tackle any unknown phenomenon at all, because at their core, I could have given them the slip if they were just fumbling, but at their core, I think we've demonstrated over and over, they're dishonest, and they are somehow using the resources of a very prestigious university to push this drivel. Yeah, I mean, they're not directly affiliated, but yeah, okay, if you believe that, you believe in anything.
I mean, they probably still get a salary from Harvard.
Yeah, they drove their salary, write their Reddit blog, smoke a lot of weed too, I guess. I don't know.
One thing I found very funny at page 16 at the bottom.
Okay.
They basically say that this paper was like an answer to like an article from the Scientific American where the author asked or like said, it's time to hear from the social scientists about the UFO.
Yeah, we still haven't heard from them, at least not in this paper.
I mean, one of them is a psychologist, remember?
I mean, look, social scientists could be charlatans too. I mean, like, I'm sure...
No, I mean, that's what I'm trying to say. Like, this what happens when you let social scientists talk about the UFOs. It's actually ironic because you would expect a social scientist to talk about like the UFO UFO phenomenon
Mhm,
as like an anthropological or socio-cultural phenomenon, like meme and such.
Yeah, there's
And these guys, they actually talk more bullshit than like some natural history inclined pseudoscience. Like,
yeah, you could even do. I mean, as a social scientist, there's so much that people could do about phenomena like that. I mean, you could look at the background of the people making such claims and witnesses, and I'm sure like you will uncover very extraordinary correlations there. With class and like white collar jobs and propensity to believe in aliens. Like you could do a million things. You could compare religiosity with belief in the UFO phenomenon. You could look at the religious backgrounds of people who have advanced such claims over the years, and you could even like compare the role the so-called alien catharsis would play. If they only disclosed it, and you could compare the similarities of that catharsis to Christian mania and millenarianism and stuff like that. There's a billion things you can do, and this is none of them. I mean, so this is not like I would never diss on social sciences based on this paper.
definitely.
So that's that from me, man. What are your finishing quotes for this steaming pile of paranormals?
I just thought of a challenge for everyone. Sorry, I burned my tongue before on hot tea, and since then I can't talk straight. I thought of a challenge for all of our viewers. Like, write down in the comments your best explanation for the UFO phenomenon.
Yes.
And by best, I mean the silliest.
Yeah. So all your comments about the silliest alien explanations go below, and all your donations, please go to TK Sivgin's Patreon or my Patreon, because unlike our good friends at the Human Flourishing Institute, we don't have Harvard grants or I don't know tenure or whatever it is that these guys have, and we're just working several day jobs to keep this interesting YouTube channel going. Also, please visit TK Sivgin's channel, and he's making really incredible nature videos recently, so please give his channel a follow and like his videos too.
Thank you.
That's that from me.
Yeah, that's from me too. Tune in next time when we talk about the Silurian hypothesis and cryptoterrestrials, but in a much more serious way.
Yeah. Look, I mean, we're gonna put together a podcast that's gonna blow this human flourishing extravaganza out of the water. We're gonna go period by period throughout geological time and consider the most likely candidates for a human-like sapiency that could build civilizations, and it's gonna be fun and gonna be honest, and yeah, that's that. Really looking forward to it.
Me too. All right.
Yeah, that's that for me. Have a good day, everybody. And I'm sorry if I came out too angry, but sometimes I think anger is warranted.
Yeah, I mean, if we put the link to this paper in the video description, I think most people can see for themselves
Yeah
why you are so angry, and they will be understanding.
Makes me mad. Yeah. Anyways, everyone, stay safe and drink lots of water in the hot months, and we love you all. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.